Hello and welcome to 5.3 Lab 2. Go ahead and put in their student information, open up 5.3 Lab 2 JS file, and let's go ahead and dive in. So we're going to create a global variable just like we created functions outside of the normal function we've been using up until this point with modularization. We're going to create a global variable. There's really two scopes within a variable, meaning scopes where the area within which they live. There's inside of a function where you have variables. That's what we've been doing up until this point for the most part, was we've been creating variables inside of a function. So those are called local variables. Then we also have global variables, variables that are outside of a function. The big difference between the two is if they're local, they're only accessible to the function itself. If they're global, they're accessible from everybody. Now, there is one caveat to that. If I create a variable inside of a function without using the var keyword, it becomes global. I would refrain from doing it as much as possible. There's times you have to do that like with doing AJAX requests. But for the most part, you want to have one section of your program, usually at the top, where you create all your global variables and then work from there. So then we're going to create a new function, and after the global variables, we're going to call output name. And then in this function, we're just going to do document rights and output our information. And then we're going to set the global variable to our name, and then call that output name function and output it on its own line. So here I output my name 4 times. Let's take a look at the code and see what we did. So here I have a global variable. Again, notice it's outside of a function. I did use the var keyword. If you have it outside of a function, use the var keyword, it's global. If you have it inside the function, use the var keyword, it is local. However, again, like I stated just a few moments ago, if you have it inside of a function and do not use the var keyword, it is global. So just keep that in mind. So I have var username, and then I have my function output name, where I'm just saying output the username variable. See, I'm accessing that global variable from inside of a function. So that's why we created it as global, so we could access it from elsewhere. And then, so I'm outputting that username. Now, notice I don't have a value of it. So at this point, when we get to line 5, it's undefined. But let's look at how we don't have an undefined error show up, how I have the name, my name show up. So here in my function, this is the function that's getting called from my HTML page. So I have my username equal to Clay Hess, and then I'm calling my output name 4 times. So I set the value of username here on line 14, so I won't get a defined error, because by the time I call it here on line 5, which is actually getting referenced from line 15, it's going to have the value of Clay Hess, and then I'm just doing a break tag here, so I'm outputting Clay Hess 4 times on the screen, and I'm just calling that output name function 4 times. Again, like I said in a previous lab, you probably wouldn't do output name 4 times, you would do a loop 4 times, but I didn't want to muddy the water here. I just wanted you to understand how these functions work, how we've been calling them and modularizing our code, and now we've thrown in the wrinkle of a global variable that we set a value to and then call that from our modularized output name function. So I hope that makes sense. If you have questions, let me know, and happy coding.